Okay, right. I'm going to show you how to mark out the drill gauge and holder on the piece of card. Okay, measure and mark it out, ready for cutting out. Yeah, so I'm going to put my card flat. Now it's already been cut to 65mm high, but you have a look on the drawing, 65mm is how high item 1 is. Item 1 is the back. Yeah, polymer wood. We know we're gonna cut that out of acrylic. Okay, just polymer. But obviously we're going to make it out of cardboard first, because we want to check to make sure that the drawing is accurate, and when we assemble it we want to make sure it looks good, it's going to work, because we've got 7,500 to make. Right, first thing I'm going to do, alright, is I'm going to start in the bottom left hand corner. Now if you look on the drawing, bottom left hand corner is here. Okay, so I'm going to take measurements 6, 8, 14, 20 with 4, 36, 50, 52 and 60. Okay, and I'm going to draw some vertical lines, some construction lines to start off with. Okay, I'm going to use my steel rule like this. Always measure like this with a steel rule. Okay, use the end of the rule. So I'm going to start with 6, pop the steel rule on like that. I'm just going to put a little line for 6. Okay, now remember, you need to explain this in as much detail as possible. Okay, I'm going to 8 so that somebody who's reading it would be able to sketch this out on the piece of card. So we've got 8 and then we've got 14, so I'm just moving that along gently. Then we've got 24, like so. Yeah, and then I've got 36, like that. See, I'm keeping the rule nice and parallel with the top, the bottom. Okay, and then after 36 I've got 50. Okay, yeah, 50mm, and then I've got 52. So again, I'm just going to mark 52 on. And then finally I've got 60mm, that's the overall width. See, there's no dimension line there, but I know it's 60. Okay, it's third angle orthographic projection, which means that we look up and it shows you the angle as if you were looking from the bottom of it. So I'm going to make sure I mark that 60 on like that. There we go. Yeah, so we've got all those lines marked on. Okay, what I'm going to do now is just very carefully, okay, I'm going to draw some lines across those marks, just nice and faint, vertical lines. Okay, well, I've moved it around so it's horizontal, but they go vertically as we look at it in the actual view itself. So I'm just going to scribe very carefully, keeping the rule nice and square and parallel, and I'm just putting those light marks on like that and like that. Okay, and like that. Yeah, so I should have 2, 4, 6, I've got 8 lines on there. Okay, there's no line obviously at the edge, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and then 8 lines there. There's my 8 lines, as you can see there. And now I'm going to do 2 lines. I've got to put this detail on here, yeah, which is 45, and then I've got to mark the centre lines for the holes at 55. Yeah, so again I'm going to take my steel rule, I'm going to mark on 45, my rule, just a light line, then I'm going to do 55, and then a little mark there like that, and again I'm just going to scribe my lines across, like so, just light line across, and then another light line across, this one, that's at 55, I should have 10, yeah, and I've got 10 left at the top. Okay, alright, yeah. Now if you look carefully at this, if I look at where the positions of the holes are, okay, I can see I've got a hole there, that first line, that's going to be there, so I'm just going to put a little dot there so I can see that. and then I've got the third line, 1, 2, third line in. I'm going to put a dot, and there's a one there, and there. Again, these are the centres of the holes, and then there's a one there. Okay, we've got a line there. Alright, so those are the positions of the holes. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, okay, I can see that second line in, that one there. I'm going to draw a line down there. So I'm going to show where I'm going to be cutting out. I've got a line there, I've got a line that goes down here, like that. So I'm just going over those construction lines to show where I'm going to be cutting. Okay, and alright, then I'm going to move that out, that line out, like so. There's one there, and we've got a one there, like that. Okay, I haven't done that one very well. I'll do that one again, like that. Okay, then, okay, I'm going to draw a line halfway up, like that. Okay, so it looks like this now. So you can see, if I was to overlap that, okay, you can see where that would go. Okay, right, now I've got to put a radius, two 10mm radiuses on the corner. Yeah, I can get my compass out. Now I know that last circle there, that is 10mm from the edge, and it is 10mm from the top. So I could just mark that radius on very carefully. There we go. Now it's just a guide because I want to cut around that, like so. Okay, I can move that over to the other side. Now I know it's 10mm from the top, it's 8mm to here, so I just need to move it a little bit further in, keeping it set, and then I'm just going to carefully just draw. I'll just move that in a little bit more. I'm just going to carefully just draw that radius, like so. There we go, like that. Again, so I've got a nice guide there for that radius, like that. So we've got the radius in there now. We can see how it's taking shape. Okay, now it's going to be quite fiddly to do those circles, okay, with a compass. So what I've got here is I've got a like a template, a circle template. Okay, now I know I've got 4.2, 5.2, 6.2. Now this is just a guide to help me with the punch. So I'm going to look for the 4. I've got the 4 here. Alright, there's my 4. If I put it carefully on like that, I can just carefully draw a 4. Okay, like so. Yeah, then I've got a 5.2, so I'll go for the 5 again. Okay, I'll put my 5 on, and then we've got the 6.2. Okay, so I'm going to put a 6 on there, like so. Yeah, then we've got an 8.2, so I'm going to look for an 8. Okay, this is just going to help me to line the punch up when I put punch the holes on. Yeah, then I've got a 10.2, so I'm going to get a 10. Okay, and pop the 10 on like that, get it as close as I can to the middle. Okay, and there you go, that's all drawn out. That's item 1, that's the back all drawn out.